Hey everyone, my name is Matt. Welcome to my shop. Today is May 25th and this is my weekly shop update. So I wanted to get started today with a little show and tell, I guess. I got a few things sent to me as gifts this week that I thought I'd share. This first one here, this is a little mallet that Dima made for me. It's got Dovetail Master and my picture on the side there. And Dima had asked me to weigh the rubber mallet that I use all the time, which I don't know where it is, but I like that mallet because I really like the weight of it. And I like being able to grip really close to the mallet head to tap on stuff with. So Dima made this wooden mallet. It is honey locust and walnut, and he made it to be the same weight as the rubber one, which is 17 ounces. And he knew that I like to choke up on the mallet head as well, so he put the curvature in the handle so that it makes it really comfortable to grab up really close or down here. So thank you, Dima. This is going to get used a lot in the shop for sure. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description, but we'll be talking about him again in a little bit. The next thing I have here is a cute little onesie from Mike over at MF Wood Shop. Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate this. This is going to look really good on the baby when that happens soon enough. I'll leave a link to Mike's channel in the description as well. If you haven't checked out his woodworking channel, you should. It's pretty cool. And the last thing I got here is from Tim. He sent me this really awesome end grain cutting board, a round one. And it's really nice. It's got these nice little rubber feet on the bottom. And overall, it's just really well made. Did a great job with this, Tim. Thank you so much for sending it to me. I really appreciate that. He also wrote me a really nice little note, which is cool because, I don't know, I can't write notes because no one, including myself, can read them. My handwriting skills aren't quite there. So this week in the shop, I continued pressing ahead with my cutting board cleanup project. I got a lot of cutting board blanks glued up this week. I have a whole stack of them over there against the wall, and it is coming up on whatever height this is, probably like close to 5 feet high, of cutting board blanks. And I still have a fair amount of material left to glue up, but it's to that point now where I can kind of set it aside a little bit, and it's kind of out of my way. I can kind of work around it, whereas before it was just everywhere and I couldn't get anything done. So that's a nice change here in the shop. The other thing I started working on in the shop this week is the bassinet. I didn't really spend a whole lot of time out here working on this. I was out here for about 2 hours one evening from about midnight to 2 a.m. or so, and I got all the stock milled up, and I started cutting the joinery on the top rail or the top rails of the end pieces. And this is the first little end piece here, kind of clamped up. But you can see how let's kind of put that on here for now. You see how the top rail connects to the, I'll call them legs for now, connects to the legs at an angle. So this is all going to be angled mortise and tenon joinery. So there is this top rail here, there's going to be a middle rail, and then the bottom rail here is actually going to be a rocker. And that's all at a 10-degree angle. So you can see on this other one here, what I've been doing with this angle joinery is something that is, well, it's a little challenging because, at least coming from like a power tool perspective, you need if you're cutting this, for instance, this sort of angle, you need your miter gauge to be able to swing to the same exact angle on both sides of 90 degrees. And I don't have a miter gauge that can really do that consistently. And I mean, sure, you can set up some kind of jig or something to kind of dial that into the blade, but I don't really, that's not really my way of working personally. So what I did on these actually is I scribed the angles all the way around with my bevel gauge and my squares, so I had a consistent shoulder line all the way around. And then I went to the table saw, set my miter gauge to roughly that angle, and I kind of sneaked up on the line a little bit and removed the material to make the tenon. And now back at the bench, I can actually use my scribe line here to actually chisel and pare back to that line and have a perfectly even shoulder all the way around the entire tenon, which is what is really important about these, well, about any mortise and tenon joint, is having that nice crisp connection between the tenon piece and the mortise piece. So that's coming along really well. It's kind of fun because I'm incorporating a lot lot more hand tool stuff into it, so that makes it a little more interesting to watch, I'm sure, as well. And this is one of the rocker blanks here. So lots of fun angled stuff going on in this project. And I'll be continuing to work on that this week. Yeah. All right, so last week I was talking about how I got that trailer and how I was going to take a look at the brakes. So this week my friend Jim came over, and while he was here, I figured he would take a look at the brakes with me and just kind of see what we were dealing with. So this is one of the brakes, and this is actually one of the better conditioned ones that was on that trailer. When we pulled off the drums, the pads had actually disconnected from, or I guess the shoes or whatever. The shoes had disconnected from the actual plates here that actually push against the drums, and these are pretty much just gone. So I put all new brakes on that trailer, new whole back assemblies, and new drums as well. And I didn't film the process because it's really simple, actually. I actually watched some videos on YouTube about changing whole trailer brake assemblies, and it's really simple because they just bolt on to there's some bolts on the back here, and that just bolts right onto the axle, and then your hubs get the bearings and all that stuff, and that gets attached to the back plate. Really simple to go together. But one thing I want to show you, and this is really cool, I picked this up to grease the bearings. I've never seen anything like this, and I'm sure everyone who works on trailers and stuff, this is probably pretty common, but this little guy here, for packing grease into bearings, this is really cool. So this is like a double cone setup here. You take this first part off, you drop your bearing on here, you close this top one down on top of the bearing, and then the top of this, the shaft here has a grease fitting on it. So you can just put your grease gun right on here, give it a couple pumps, and that'll actually force grease into the bearings, and that bearing will be perfectly packed with grease. I thought that was really cool because that's a lot easier than doing it by hand. And it's not cleaner by any means, but yeah. You can tell I don't work with stuff that's not woodworking related very often because greasy hands, not my favorite thing. Oh man, that's kind of gross. So a big thing today actually was I got a new planer. Let me show you that. So here's my new planer. It's a 20-inch Grizzly planer. It's about, let's see, this was manufactured in 1995. So it's about 20 years old, but it's in great condition. The planer I used to have was a 15-inch Grizzly as well. It was the G0453 with the straight knife cutter head, and this is also with the straight knife cutter head. This has 4 knives as opposed to 3 knives that was in my other planer. And I don't know what I was about to say about that. I don't know. So someday I want to still have a helical head in my planer, but I'm getting there, I guess. I got a really great deal on this one. The gentleman who sold it to me actually delivered it today. So he brought it here, he brought it right into my shop for me, and that went really well. He had it on a tilt bed trailer, so we could just basically just dump it out. Well, I wasn't really dumping it out, but it was a gradual fall off the trailer, and then we just roll it across the driveway on some plywood into the shop, really hassle-free. The other thing on this planer is it has a 3 horsepower motor as opposed to the 5 horsepower motors that you would find in the planers like this you would buy today. It's not really a problem for me, I don't think. I don't really think that's going to be that much of a restriction for me. But the really nice thing about that being 3 horsepower is the old planer I had is 3 horsepower as well. So this has the same electrical requirements as my old planer, so I didn't have to do any kind of upgrading to my, my electrical service here, which is nice. Now my 15-inch planer, which I sold today to Dima, is over there in his shop now. We loaded that up and delivered that to his shop today on my trailer, which was the first time I got to use that to actually haul anything, so that was a lot of fun. So I'm sure Dima will do a little video about bringing that planer over to his place. He did, well, had the cameras going for that whole process too, so that should be a fun little video too if he decides to do something with that. One thing about this planer obviously is it's bigger. It's 5 inches wider, and to accommodate that, so I have room to get by the planer between my bench, I'm going to shift my drum sander back that way, and then this whole planer thing will kind of go this way on this side of the support pole here, so that'll keep my little planer area thing around the pole pretty consistent. One little tip that I wanted to share with you, or actually two tips, or two planer tips for anyone that has a stationary planer like this. The gentleman that sold this to me, I've never seen this before, but I think this was the best idea ever. Not so much for me because I do a lot of planing, but he built this little platform, which is just a piece of plywood with some stops on it, and that sits right on top of the planer here. And now you have an actual solid work surface. So he actually used this as his miter saw station, but you could put like a spindle sander on here or something like that if you're kind of more limited on space and you don't do a whole lot of return feeding with your planer. The other cool little tip that I want to share with you that I've been doing for a while is on this side near my bench, these planers have these lifting bars so you can move the planer with like a forklift. I use those as clamp racks. So you can just slide some clamps on there and you'll have a nice little clamp rack, and that works out really well. I thought that was kind of a neat little thing I wanted to share with you guys today. So episode 8 of the Nat and Matthew show, I think it's episode 8. I can't believe we're already on episode 8. That's crazy. So that episode will be out tomorrow, Tuesday, if I get it edited in time. I'll be editing that tonight after I edit this video. That was an interview that we did with Joseph from JWT Woodworks. That was a really great interview, and you should check that out. It's pretty good, I thought. Joseph was a pretty amazing guy to talk to. So that's about all I have for this week. Thank you as always for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments about anything I talked about today or anything here in my shop, please feel free to leave me a comment. As always, I appreciate those. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Until next time, happy woodworking.